Okay, we continue our sermon series in the book of Exodus with Exodus chapter 7, the whole chapter, verses 1 through 25. We are spending time in the book of Exodus this fall. I have titled this, Finding God in the Wilderness, and we are getting close to actually getting to that part, the wilderness portion of the Exodus story. So listen to Exodus 7, 1 to 25, and let me just remind you, this is God's word to us. It's given to us because He loves us. The Lord said to Moses, "See, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron shall be your prophet. You shall speak all that I command you, and your brother Aaron shall tell Pharaoh to let the Israelites go out of his land. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and I will multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. When Pharaoh does not listen to you, I will lay my hand upon Egypt and bring my people, the Israelites, company by company, out of the land of Egypt by great acts of judgment. The Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh, when I stretch out my hand against Egypt and bring the Israelites out from among them." Moses and Aaron did so. They did just as Yahweh commanded them. Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. Yahweh said to Moses and Aaron, "When Pharaoh says to you, 'Perform a wonder,' then you shall say to Aaron, 'Take your staff and throw it down before Pharaoh, and it will become a snake.'" So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did as Yahweh had commanded. Aaron threw down his staff before Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a snake. Then Pharaoh summoned the wise men and the sorcerers, and they also, the magicians of Egypt, did the same by their secret arts. Each one threw down his staff, and they became snakes. But Aaron's staff swallowed up theirs. Still, Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen to them, as Yahweh had said. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he is going out to the water. Stand by at the riverbank to meet him, and take in your hand the staff that was turned into a snake. Say to him, 'Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, sent me to you to say, let my people go, so that they may worship me in the wilderness. But until now you have not listened. Thus says Yahweh, by this you shall know that I am Yahweh. See, with the staff that is in my hand, I will strike the water that is in the Nile, and it shall be turned to blood. The fish in the river shall die, the river itself shall stink, and the Egyptians shall be unable to drink it, to drink the water from the Nile." Yahweh said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, take your staff and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over its rivers, its canals, and its ponds, and all its pools of water, so that they may become blood. And there shall be blood throughout the whole land of Egypt, even in vessels of wood and in vessels of stone." Moses and Aaron did just as Yahweh commanded. In the sight of Pharaoh and of his officials, he lifted up the staff and struck the water in the river, and all the water in the river was turned into blood. And the fish in the river died. The river stank, so that the Egyptians could not drink its water, and there was blood throughout the whole land of Egypt. But the magicians of Egypt did the same by their secret arts. So Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, and he would not listen to them as Yahweh had said. Pharaoh turned and went into his house, and he did not take even this to heart. And all the Egyptians had to dig along the Nile for water to drink, for they could not drink the water of the river. 7 days passed after Yahweh had struck the Nile. This is the word of the Lord. Okay, at this time, children ages 3 through 5th grade are dismissed for Children's Church. If that's your desire and their desire, you can go with Miss Bonnie if you're ready. So, all right, here we go. Release the hounds.
First one up here.
Well, there we go. Oh, bud, you got a boot like I had. I had a boot too. So where we left off last week at the end of chapter 6, if you recall, Moses, things had gone from bad to worse, and Moses said, "See, Yahweh, you have done nothing at all, since I came back here to Egypt to deliver your people." In the end of chapter 6, Yahweh's response is, "Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh." But first, he sends Moses and Aaron to give one last warning, one last chance, one last opportunity to do things the easy way rather than do them the hard way. And so Moses and Aaron they go to see Pharaoh and they try one of the 3 magic tricks that Yahweh gave Moses as signs that they were indeed the messengers sent by Yahweh. And so Aaron throws down his staff. It was supposed to be Moses' staff, but now it's Aaron's staff. Aaron throws down his staff, and the staff turns into a snake. But Pharaoh summons his guys, and they perform the same magic. And Pharaoh's basically like, "Ha! My guys can do the same thing. This is no big deal. No big deal." But, maybe so, but Aaron's snake swallows up all of Pharaoh's snakes. Which is to say, maybe, Pharaoh, but Yahweh is about to swallow you up. So this is Pharaoh's, last chance to do things the easy way. But as we know, Pharaoh's not impressed. His heart is still hardened. So, ding, ding, ding. Here we go. Round one of 10 in this showdown between Yahweh and Pharaoh. Now, here's the thing. We're going to cover plagues 1 through 9. And don't worry, I'm going to summarize greatly. We're not going to be here for 2 hours. We're going to cover plagues 1 through 9 as a whole in this sermon. If you want more detail on plagues 2 through 9, then you can read them for yourself. Or if you're free on Wednesdays at 12:30, come to Bible study and we'll dig into more detail. So, a few notes about the plagues. First, the first 9 plagues seem to be grouped into cycles of 3. So we have blood, frogs, gnats. Then we have flies, cursing the livestock, and boils. And then hail, locusts, and darkness. So 3 cycles of 3. And each cycle of 3 just gets higher and higher, raises in intensity until we get to the 10th plague, of course, which is the final nail in Pharaoh's coffin. Plagues 1 and 2... Pharaoh's guys, his group of sorcerers and magicians, can reproduce the plagues. Now, I'm not sure why they would want to reproduce the plagues, other than to show, this God Yahweh is no big deal. We can do the same by our gods. But note 2 things about this. They are not able to reproduce the plagues after plague 2. So 3 through 10, they can't do the same thing after the blood and the frogs. And most importantly, even though they can also turn staffs into snakes, and although they can also turn water into blood, and they can also make frogs appear, they can reproduce the plagues, but they can't make the plagues go away. None of them. Not a single one. Remember that hand trick that Yahweh gave Moses to perform to prove to the Israelite leaders that he was indeed sent by Yahweh? He could put his hand in his coat and pull it out, and it would turn leprous, and then he could put the hand back in his coat and pull it out, and it would be restored back to normal. The point of that was only Yahweh can both bring plagues and take the plagues away. So Pharaoh, after plagues 2 through 9, he'll beg Moses and Aaron to make the plagues stop. Please, make it stop. Make it go away. Of course, only then to have a change of heart every time Moses and Aaron makes the plagues stop and refuse to let the people go. From plague number 6 on, the plagues directly affect the Egyptians themselves, which is, of course, a harbinger for things that are to come. And by the time you get to the 8th plague, when Moses and Aaron give Pharaoh the warning, hey, just letting you know, we're ready for the next step in the process. It's coming today. After the 8th plague, Pharaoh's officials are now begging Pharaoh, please give in, give up. You are destroying our country. Give in to these guys and let them go away. So, after the warning of the 8th plague is coming, Pharaoh says, okay, I'll try to get ahead of this 8th plague. And so he summons Moses and Aaron back to the palace, but he tries to negotiate. Okay, fine. You can go out there and worship your Yahweh out in the wilderness, but only the men can go. The women and children have to stay here with us. Now, why would he do that? Well, of course, so they would come back. They're not just going to abandon their women and children in Egypt, right? So he's trying to kind of hedge a little bit, right? Like, well, if I keep the women and children here, they'll have to come back. They won't just leave for good, because surely they're not going to leave all the women and children in slavery in Egypt. After plague 9, the darkness, he summons Moses and Aaron back. And again, he's like, okay, I give in. You can go, including your women and children. But your herds and your livestock have to stay here with us. Now, why would he do that? Well, one, how long can they possibly survive out there in the wilderness without their herds and their livestock? And two, even if they don't come back, well, at least we recoup some of our losses and we took all their herds and livestock, even though we lost all of our slave labor. Now, there are many things going on in the plague, so let me try to sum up the themes of the plagues for us. First, the plagues are all about showing that only Yahweh is the master of the cosmos. Only Yahweh is the master of the created order. Because you see, each plague is a little reintroduction of the chaos that existed before Yahweh ordered the void into the world as we know it. So only Yahweh can reverse the order of the world, introduce chaos, and then put it back together again. Think about the flood and Noah. God created all this order, and he separated the seas from the land and all these things. And so in the flood, what did Yahweh do? He reintroduced chaos. He reintroduced the void. He covered the world in the flood waters of destruction. And then he made it go back again. He made the flood waters recede and go back to the way they were. So only Yahweh can reintroduce chaos and put it back. And only Yahweh can reintroduce chaos and protect his people from the chaos. Again, think about the flood narrative. We've already mentioned this before. The flood narrative is very important to understanding what's going on in the midst of the plagues. Yahweh was able to save Noah and his family from the reintroduction of chaos by putting them in the ark. And the ark carried them through the floodwaters of destruction so that only the people that Yahweh chose were protected and saved from the chaos. Remember back earlier in Exodus, the same word that was used for the basket that Moses was placed in and placed into the Nile River, these floodwaters of destruction where the Israelite children were being murdered, and yet Moses is put in this ark, and the ark protects him through the floodwaters of chaos and destruction. So only Yahweh can bring chaos and protect only his chosen people from that chaos. The second main theme of the plagues, Yahweh aims his crosshairs not only at the political power of Egypt, Pharaoh, but the gods who back that power. Not only is he aiming at the political human power of Egypt and Pharaoh, but he is also taking aim at the gods who back that political power. You have to understand that the Israelites believed there were other gods. They believed that other gods existed and were very real. They were just commanded to worship and serve Yahweh alone as God. So this cosmic battle is between the gods of the superpower nation of Egypt and their earthly representative, Pharaoh, and this Yahweh, the God of slaves, who apparently lives somewhere out in the wilderness, and his chosen earthly representative, this loser named Moses. Now, how can we see that this is what's going on? Well, plague number 1, turning the waters of the Nile River, and actually all the water everywhere in Egypt, and all the pots and canteens and everything they had, turning the water of the Nile River into blood. Well, the goddess, the Egyptian goddess Hapi, makes sure that the Nile River is filled with water every year, because the Nile River is absolutely vital to Egypt's existence. So turning the Nile to blood is both payback for Pharaoh murdering the children of the Israelites in the Nile River, and also showing Yahweh defeats Hapi. Yahweh is bigger than Hapi. Secondly, the plague number 2, the frogs. Well, why frogs? Okay, what's the deal with frogs? Well, the Egyptian deity of fertility, Heket, is depicted as in Egyptian lore as having the head of, wait for it, a frog. A frog. So is Heket or Yahweh in control of fertility? Controlling fertility in the ancient world meant you controlled power. Now that may seem a little weird to us. We may not think about people who, those who can have kids somehow hold power. Well, listen, if you think that's weird, there are plenty of books about dystopian futures where humanity can no longer have kids. And if you don't read, you can go watch the movies and TV shows that are reproduced of those books, and you will see how important it is to be able to control who has children and who can't in the world, and why that is powerful. Plague number 9, the darkening of the sun. The sun god Ra himself is said to personally endorse Pharaoh, personally back Pharaoh's power. Well, who's bigger, Yahweh or Ra? And then, of course, plague number 10, who has power over death itself? Well, not Osiris, the Egyptian god of death, that's for sure, which we will see next week. So the original audience who received this message, which is important for us for understanding how to interpret and apply these passages, who was the original audience? So the original audience who received this message most certainly believed in the existence of other gods, and they were most certainly given ample opportunities to choose to serve and worship these other gods. That's one of the main points of the book of Exodus. Now, we tend to shy away from language that applies that other gods actually exist, that they actually exist as deities. We say we are monotheistic. There is only one true God, and all other gods are just make-believe and made up. But make no mistake, we too are given ample opportunities to serve and worship other gods just the same as the Israelites. And same as ancient Israel, we are being called to trust, to serve, and to worship Yahweh alone and his promises to deliver the world, even when that means Yahweh must judge the powers that enslave and dehumanize us as image bearers. Especially when we become complacent in being enslaved and dehumanized as God's image bearers. Even when we become complacent in allowing others to be enslaved and dehumanized as God's image bearers. The Israelites for sure cry out to Yahweh in their bondage and in their misery to deliver them. But only a few actually choose to resist. Shiphrah and Puah, the Hebrew midwives, Moses' mom, Moses' sister, Pharaoh's daughter. Only a few choose to actually resist Pharaoh. For the most part, the Israelites struggle to believe that there could be anything else other than to live under Pharaoh's thumb. You see, unfortunately, this is what happens so often when people are oppressed. They tend to just get at home with a world of violence and injustice. Well, this is just how it is. I guess these other gods are truly as powerful, maybe even more powerful than Yahweh. So why care? Why bother? Why try? And sometimes we do the same thing. But friends, Exodus 7 through 11 is proof that Yahweh does not tolerate injustice. He does not tolerate the dehumanization of His image bearers. Yahweh will judge. Yahweh will strip the powers of all political powers and the gods who back those powers, who destroy His very good creation that He ordered out of the chaos by His love and for His love. The priest and theologian N.T. Wright, in his book Evil and the Justice of God, says, God's justice is a saving, healing, restorative justice because the God to whom justice belongs is the Creator God, who has yet to complete His original plan for creation and whose justice is designed not simply to restore balance to a world out of kilter, but to bring to glorious completion and fruition the creation, teeming with life and possibility that He made in the first place. So if you are not stirred by this history in Exodus 7 through 11, if you are not stirred by this history to pay attention to the places where God's image is being treated as something less than human so that others may have power and prosper, then you are missing the point of Exodus. If the injustices of this world, heck, the injustices of this country, are just something that you've gotten used to, this is just how the world is, so as long as it's not affecting me and disrupting my day-to-day, I can live with it, then I warn you, just like Moses and Aaron warned Pharaoh, I warn you, be careful. Be careful. You may be worshiping God for sure, but is it Yahweh? Is it the Yahweh of justice? Is it the Yahweh of the created order? Is it the Yahweh who created image bearers in His image by His love and for His love? Be careful, because you may find yourself on the wrong side of this cosmic battle. Because one greater than Moses has come. One greater than Moses has come, and by His life and His death and His resurrection and His ascension, He was vindicated as the one who has the power to overcome the injustices of the church and the injustices of the state. The one greater than Moses has come. And He is coming again. And like the third plague and the sixth plague and the ninth plague, there will be no warning when He does. So, when that day comes, which side will we be on? Which side will we be on? In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.